Hey there, I'm Vita King Blanchard from Rooted Arts. Thanks for joining me for this reflection on holding space for ourselves. Being uncomfortable is something that we're kind of trained not to allow ourselves to do. You know, um, we're told that if we feel awkward or if we feel tense or if we feel emotional, that it's too much or that like we're being a baby or all of these societal things that we chat about in terms of just feeling uncomfortable. And the truth is that when we have discomfort, it comes from a real place, right? We, if we hear something, if we are in a conversation about something, if we think something and a repetitive thought comes up, then we often try to just suppress it or push it aside or say, oh, that's nonsense. Like, instead of allowing it. And most of these things come up as a way to protect us, right? We had some kind of micro trauma or maybe large trauma in our past, maybe yesterday, maybe when we were babies, that created an emotion in us because we had a negative experience or an experience that we perceived as negative, and we didn't give ourselves the opportunity to process it. And so the emotion from that experience got stored. And the way that I understand that is when we store emotions, it creates a tension inside of our bodies. It's like putting it, when we put something into a freezer, it takes up space. And the same way with an emotion that's unprocessed, when we put it into our body, it just kind of stays there. And it becomes like an area where we store tension. And we all have those, right? We all know what they are. Like, oh, my shoulders are where I store tension, or the back of my neck is what gets really tight, or my low back, or whatever it is for you. And from that place, that tension is available to react. And that tension kind of interacts with our subconscious and our emotional experience so that when we encounter or hear ourselves expressing words or encounter a thought that makes us feel something similar to that emotion, that tension opens up. And it's really an offering, is the way I think about it, because, in the midst of that reaction, our body, mind, spirit is offering us the opportunity to support ourselves, to process this. It's like, oh, now we can process. And when we can give ourselves that space, it can just be so profound because it's one less piece of tension that we're walking around with, one less piece of stress that we're carrying into conversations with us or into the room with us. Because regardless of how surface something is in our conscious mind or how deep it is in our subconscious, we carry it into the room with us if it's in us at all. And it becomes available for a reaction. Right? So the difference here is that when we take the time to allow ourselves the processing, the experiencing of those uncomfortable things that exist within us, then we're less available to react because we have less attachment to circumstances that might bring up a similar emotion in us. And we've practiced dealing with that emotion, being aware of it, allowing it. And it's easier in that place to stay in center and to just simply be in the moment that we're in, which is such a gift, right? If we're not worrying about the future or regretting the past or, you know, thinking about something else, when we're really in the moment that we're in, when we're in that unity consciousness, then clarity is right there because there's nothing obscuring the moment. And it can be really easy at that point to just feel what feels right for you, to know what boundaries you need in that moment with you, or to have an increased awareness of what's comfortable for you and what isn't. So, I love cues. They like setting up cues for myself supports me in knowing what practice is going to be most beneficial for me in a given moment so that I can increase my comfort level. Because really, that is my drive. My drive is to be as comfortable as possible in any given moment so that I can be as much myself as possible. And I think that's true for all of us, right? Just the more that we are able to show up as our authentic selves, the more joy we have, the more support we're able to give ourselves and to others, the more, just more, more love, more peace. So, the way that I view this as a cue is when I feel or notice a reaction that I'm having, I simply give myself the space to notice it. Now, this doesn't always happen. Everything is a practice, and there are plenty of times that I react and then I experience it later, process it later, because we're all human together. We're all practicing together, right? But when I notice a reaction in myself, I bring my attention there and I kind of do a check in. Okay, where is there tension in my body that's calling to me right now? What memories are coming into my head, if any? What does this remind me of? And it doesn't have to be the circumstance, right? It can just be the feeling that's coming up inside me that's similar. So we don't judge, we just ask some questions and allow our mind, body, spirit to give us some answers. And the other question, or another one that comes up in this circumstance for me, is what thoughts are repeating in my mind? So that's mind, body, spirit. What emotions am I feeling? What experience am I having? What tension is there with me? What thoughts are there with me? And does this remind me of anything? Now, in the case that there is a memory associated with it, that kind of supports me in feeling easier about it because I have something specific to like point to, right? And my brain loves that. But either way, I simply acknowledge the way that when we listen to uh, someone that we love, we hold space for them. And when they're going through something really challenging and they're venting about it, simply like acknowledge, yeah, that was hard. Yeah, that feels like it was hard or sounds like it was hard. And giving that space to ourselves, simply allowing that space within us to open, hearing it can be a huge release. And then after I have heard myself, whatever that means, right? Because this is metaphorical listening, though you absolutely can do this out loud. um, Once I feel heard, once my emotions feel heard, then I thank them because they came up initially. That pattern within me came from protecting myself in some moment, in that perhaps memory if I have it, but definitely it came in a circumstance. And then I am just send love to myself. Like in that conversation with a friend, we give them a hug at that point, or, you know, maybe pat their back. So we can do that with ourselves. Just give yourself a hug, or some like just gentle pressure, or simply just open your heart to yourself and give yourself love, really intending and breathing into it. And then I invite it, that mind, body, spirit experience, all of the aspects in that particular reaction, to release and relax any part of it that it's ready to, right? There's no force in that. It's simply an invitation. And I allow it to unravel, to begin to release and relax. And we've all had those tensions in the body, right? That we it can feel really intense, and then it begins to release, and then it releases over the next 24 hours. Well, our whole mind body spirit system is like that. Once it begins to release, it will unravel to as much as it's ready to at that point. And the rest of it might revisit you again, and then you can support yourself again. And that is a great way to really build that self trust and confidence that bolsters us and again provides us with clarity to really know what we need to feel comfortable next time. So, thank you for spending this time with me today and listening to this reflection on processing our reactions and supporting ourselves with love. I love you. I love me. I love us. I'll see you soon.